Her name is Riri Williams. She was created during the events of Civil War II, and you're about to meet her in Wakanda forever. Your Geek History lesson on Ironheart is now in session. Hello and welcome to Geek History Lesson. I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And I'm Jason Wannabe Iron Man Jr. Inman. Welcome to Geek History Lesson, the place we like to call your mind university, where we invite you into our fake school that is actually a podcast and then teach you everything you need to know about a character in a little bit less than an hour, sometimes more if we really like the character, sometimes less if we really like the character. The time is a construct. Just come along for the ride and welcome. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
Thank you all for joining us today. Today, we are talking about Ironheart / Riri Williams, going to be a bona fide star in the upcoming Marvel Studios Wakanda Forever. Black Panther. I almost said Bat Panther. What a crossover that would be. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, coming out soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you want to ask me if there were any TAs?
Well, I'm still I'm enjoying just being here. Welcome everybody to the welcome everybody. Hello. The room's getting kind of crowded now. You might want to back off a little bit. Intern Kat Brago, our own personal Golden Panther, is in the studio, we should say. And just want to point that out. Ashley, do we have anybody that has suggested and requested Riri Williams / Ironheart, the new upcoming star of Bat Panther, the amazing crossover that's going to be Black Panther 3?
We only have one. We have one TA, that is Stephen Gibson. So shout out to you, Stephen Gibson. Or maybe it's Stefan. I don't know your life. Thank you for requesting this episode. And also, I want to give a special shout out before we get too deep into it to Diego, our very own...
Diego Nunez.
Yes, our very own Black Crow, our very own Diego Nunez, our research assistant, who did a lot of heavy lifting helping me put this episode together this week. So thank you, Diego. The man, the myth, the legend himself.
He's the only male member of the Dora Milaje. That's proven.
That's not.
That's canon.
Absolutely not. When we do that episode, there's a very specific reason why it is women.
Are we ready to move into the 10-cent origin?
Yes, Ashley? I think we are.
All right, everybody, we're going to hop into the 10-cent origin. That is where Ashley is going to give you the Cliff Notes version of everything you need to know before Riri Williams, in case you're going to a Wakandan-themed cocktail party at the Wakandan Embassy and someone says, "Who is this Riri?" Well, now you'll know.
Yes. So Riri Williams, that is her real name on her birth certificate, as penned by Brian Michael Bendis, Riri Williams, a.k.a. Ironheart, a.k.a. Iron Man, a.k.a. Lady Ironheart, a.k.a. the Queen of Latveria, is a Marvel Comics superhero. She was created by Brian Michael Bendis, Eve Ewing, Mike Deodato, and Kevin Libranda. And her first appearance is this is one of those silly comic book things where her first cameo appearance is in Invincible Iron Man Volume 3, number 7 in May of 2016. And her first full appearance is in Invincible Iron Man Volume 3, number 9 in July of 2016. But that's only as Riri Williams. And it's later that it's Ironheart, which is why she has 4 created by credits. Ultimately, the first comic she ever appears in is Invincible Iron Man Volume 3, number 7, May of 2016.
Okay.
If you're looking to buy... that's the slabbable comic. That's the one that matters. And her abilities include being a skilled inventor and engineer and a super genius level intellect. Yes, she is a super genius, which is barely different than just being a regular genius. Who knew? Her team affiliations include the Young Avengers, the Champions, and Stark Industries. I didn't know working for a giant mega corporation counted as a super team. And she is about to be portrayed in live action by Dominique Thorne in the upcoming, at the time of this recording, Wakanda Forever movie, which I should say before we get any deeper, Jason and I haven't seen. There will be no Wakanda Forever spoilers.
None.
Any associations or predictions will simply be from the power of our brains, because we are also super geniuses.
And they'll probably be completely wrong.
I don't know. We predict stuff sometimes.
Sometimes.
So that's your 10-cent origin.
Awesome. Let's move into the meet cute. That is where Ashley and I are going to first tell where we first meeted and cuted said character. Ashley, where did you first meet Riri Williams?
I'm actually going to tell you Diego, our research assistant's meet cute first.
Oh, that's always lovely.
And he wrote, I remember her being part of a wave of characters that were coming out in 2016 to replace the original heroes. I will say after researching her, she is so much more than that, and I fell in love with her. So I think that's very, very sweet.
I look forward to the wedding bells.
Yes, indeed. Also, I think she's still a child. Mine is very similar to Diego. In 2016, I remember when she was introduced kind of in the same wave of characters that Kamala Khan kicked off. We got a new Wasp. We got a new Squirrel Girl back in play. I didn't read a ton of Ironheart before this episode, but I remember loving her look, and I remember a lot of the original covers and variants. Riri's always had an incredible, incredible look. So that is my meet cute. So Jason, what is your meet cute?
My meet cute is it's hard with these newer characters to say anything different, but I read this run. I read the Invincible Iron Man run by Brian Michael Bendis, and that's where I first met Miss Williams.
Yes, which led right into Infamous Iron Man. Which
she's only, what was the year she was created
2016.
Again? Yeah, see, she's not that old.
She's only 6 years old.
Even fictionally, she's only 6 years old.
Yeah.
She's just barely older than intern studio cat Brago.
That is very true. I will say that for anyone listening, if you kind of met Riri like the rest of us through Iron Man lore, we are going to get a little more into the Iron Man implications of it all over on Geek History Lesson Extra, which you can find if you go to patreon.com/Jawiin. That's our extra discussion. We're going to talk about what it takes to make a great Iron Man analog. Jason's a huge Iron Man fan.
War Machine is one of my favorite Marvel characters, so this is going to be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, I'm like a passing Iron Man fan, so I'm excited for what we get into from a storytelling perspective, but also if you're here for the Black Panther and the Wakanda ties of it all, we're doing Marvel Club right now, and we are going back and doing a retro review of Black Panther, and then we're going to do Black Panther Wakanda Forever over there.
I think by the time of this episode hitting, I think Black Panther will be up on the Patreon.
There you go.
And Black Panther Wakanda Forever will be like right up on its hay. It'll be like greening into the Patreon over at patreon.com/Jawiin, Jawiin. And if if you're not a Marvel fan, we also do Jason and Jeremy John about Justice League, where me and my friend review Justice League, the animated series. We're halfway through season 2. We're buckling towards Starcross. So if you're a big nerd, you know exactly what that means. So come on over. And we just want to say thank you to all the super friends that help support us over there. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, that's how we find cool people like our research assistant, Diego.
I mean, that is true. We should say that. Yeah. Diego was a Patreon.
He's an OG patron.
He's a Patreon. And we talked to him more. He was super awesome.
Now he works on the podcast.
So there you go. Patreon.com/Jawiin, Jawiin could be your future employment.
There you go.
And lots of bonus podcasts. Go check that out.
There you go.
All right, it's time to get to the History 101. It is time to talk about Riri Williams. It is time to discuss her 6-year history.
It's a lot.
In just 6 years?
Yes.
Okay.
So Riri Williams, again, that is the name on her birth certificate. They go out of the way to state that multiple times. When we meet her is a 15-year-old engineering student. To my knowledge to date, she is still only 15. She is not 21. Time doesn't pass the same way inside comics. Her father, Demetrius Riri Williams, was caught in the crossfire of a gas station robbery and was shot before she was born.
Oh.
So his nickname was Riri. He died when she was born. She was named Riri.
Okay.
If you were wondering why. She grew up in the South Shore neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois. I have 2 thoughts about this.
Okay.
One.
Careful. We have a lot of listeners in Chicago.
Can you believe that she's from Chicago and not from New York?
Oh, you mean because the Marvel Universe generally puts all of its characters
The center of the Marvel Universe is New York City.
I'm glad she's not from New York, to be honest with you.
I will also say I really like Riri as a character. I think she's a great addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but there are some things about her character that I feel like are a little reflective of what we might stereotype young Black female Americans to be, and I don't know if setting it in Chicago is the most inventive choice we could have made for her.
Okay.
But I do ultimately like the choice because it makes her different than Iron Man and Spider-Man and a lot of the other characters, even though once she steps up and joins teams, she does spend a lot of time in New York. She lives and is raised by her mother, Ronnie Williams, and her aunt, Sharon, and her stepfather, Gary. We like Gary. Gary is a good guy.
We like Gary. Got it.
Yeah.
Garys are good.
Garys are good in this universe.
Got it.
When Riri was 5 years old, she is taken to a psychologist because she demonstrated behavioral problems. And it turns out that these problems were displays of Riri being bored because she was smarter than everyone around her, including her parents.
That's actually common. That's a real thing.
That is a real thing. Yeah. That's also a common reason why children act out in school.
Mm-hmm.
And according to this psychologist, she was a super genius. I don't know if that's a real thing. I think that's a comic book thing. I think it's a shorthand to be like, she's at least as smart as Tony Stark, if not smarter than Tony Stark, which like bars low.
Well, remember, we've had this discussion several times in several different characters that there's always the idea of like, who is the rank of the smartest people? Because what's the awesome Hulk guy's name?
Amadeus Cho,
and he's supposed to be like the third smartest person in the Marvel universe.
Lunella Lafayette, Moon Girl, as you remember from our Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur episode, is the smartest character in the Marvel Comics universe.
Yeah, and then Reed is supposed to be number 2, and it's like, who is making these lists?
Yeah. And then like Riri is up there as well. And then the DC side of that is like Mr. Terrific is the third smartest man in the DC universe.
Yeah, comic fans are obsessed with ranking. I don't think it matters. She's whip crack smart.
In a wild choice, in my opinion, the psychologist in the scene is also like, parents Gary and Ronnie. Gary, good stepdad Gary.
Good Gary.
You have to be really concerned because of her intelligence. She might not have empathy for other people, so she might turn into a psychopath.
Oh,
which,
okay.
Look,
all right.
I don't think because you're smarter than everyone, you are not able to have empathy. But I think they were trying to introduce the idea because Tony Stark has a very dark side, right?
Tony Stark has also gone evil a couple of times.
But I mean, mirrored most obviously with his alcoholism. As I like to joke, he's the best villain of the MCU. I think they were trying to give us this with Riri. I don't really think it ever pays off. They just kind of use this to make her an introvert who doesn't have a ton of friends, which is fine. I think it's a little convenient.
This feels a little bit, and maybe this is very common in the Marvel universe where people are trying to, maybe they are worried about that. If a kid becomes super smart, they think, well, we have Dr. Doom in this universe. Could this be the next Dr. Doom?
And Dr. Doom, as we're going to get into, he's kind of all over Riri's story.
But in the actual story, it kind of feels like this might be just a red herring to give the story some stakes of, and to give Tony Stark some stakes of, is this girl going to be an ally or a villain?
Yeah. So one day, she's working in her garage, which is kind of Riri's little workshop. She's building a compact communication device for superheroes to use.
Oh, like a Star Trek TOS communicator.
No, literally exactly like that, in fact. And a neighborhood girl named Natalie Washington sees her in there working. She talks to her. She's nice to her. She shows some basic human empathy, and they become best friends because Natalie took a genuine interest in what Riri was doing. They're about 10 years old.
Okay. So we have good Gary and nice Natalie. That is so funny. We'll touch on that in a second. Oh, no.
If you know comics, you know what's coming to both of these characters. At the age of 11, Riri is given a full scholarship to attend the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, aka MIT. So, Jason.
Yes.
Lunella Lafayette, Moon Girl, we talked about her.
Yes.
She's 10 years old. She's the smartest character in the Marvel Comics universe.
Got it.
At 11 years old, Riri Williams is given a full ride to MIT. So 2 of the smartest characters in Marvel Comics continuities are young Black women. How cool is that?
That's cool.
I just thought that was really cool.
I mean, I'm curious to see how they progress in Professor Will Hunting's math class. But,
that's a reference I barely understand.
Do they bring him an apple? We'll find out. A very small section of the audience hopefully laughed.
Yeah, there you go. So when she was 13, so 2 years after being accepted into MIT, they are having a picnic, a church picnic in the park with all of her friends and all of her family, and they are caught in the line of fire in a drive-by shooting.
But so she's now going to suffer 2 drive-by shootings?
No. This is just so. Her dad was shot outside a gas station before she was born.
Okay, got it.
She was just in utero.
But still,
it doesn't even count.
Got it.
If you're not even at the womb. So then she's 13. There's a drive-by, and good Gary and nice Natalie are both shot in the heart.
Oh boy.
And die.
Oh, this is Marvel Comics?
This is Marvel Comics.
It sounds like Gotham City. Where's Batman?
And again, I just want to bring up, this might be me being overly sensitive.
Uh-huh.
I thought having 2 really important members of a Black family gunned down in a drive-by in the south side of Chicago, I thought that was a little convenient. I thought we could have done a better choice in how we gave her tragedy personally. So she gets real sad. And when smart
Of
people
course.
in the Marvel Universe get real sad, what do?
They build things.
That's right. They become engineers. So Riri starts building her own prototype version of the Iron Man armor because from the age of 9, she started watching multiple international news broadcasts at the same time. And she really liked Iron Man because he was an engineer. So she decides that she should be Iron Man as well.
Okay.
She based her suit off of the Model 41. If you don't know what that is, just Google it and you will understand the design of her original suit. It's basically like, this is the shorthand that we gave the artist to draw the reference for her original suit. It's based on Model 41.
I'm going to Google it right now.
And she builds it mostly using stolen materials from MIT, where she was still a student. She's had access to labs and engineering equipment at the time. The suit initially was supposed to be a way to challenge herself and to draw focus from the grief in her life, but it quickly became a passion project and something that she would use to debut herself and her abilities to the rest of the world. So she tests her prototype out by flying around the country. Mostly, there's this refrain of Riri being like, I want to fly, I want to fly, I want to fly. She doesn't necessarily set out to punch bad guys, but she really wants to fly.
She want to fly like an eagle?
I'm going to say yes, based on that iTunes review from a couple weeks ago. She even tries her first act as a superhero to stop two escaped convicts. But again, she's mostly like, I want to fly. Look, I can fly. She tests the integrity of the suit by standing in front of an armored truck. And manages
I think there's a better way to test that than that, but okay.
She's 13.
That's true.
And she manages to stop them, but the suit barely holds together. It might shock you to learn. Tony Stark is impressed by her accomplishment, being an actual child who managed to build this Iron Man-esque suit. And he visits her after to see her work. He says that he likes her passion. He thinks she'd make a great superhero. And then in typical Tony fashion, he poaches her to suit up and fight alongside him in Civil War II Electric Boogaloo. That's Diego's joke, and I like that joke.
Mm-hmm. I actually figured he
to fight against Captain Marvel.
I kind of figured he might show up with an injunction and be like, copyright, baby!
No, but later on, MIT is like, if you don't continue telling people that you go to MIT, you made this on our campus and we demand copyright.
Oh, really?
Which is very American,
It is very American.
Say.
That's very similar to a trend. There's a lot of Reed Richards stories where when he patents something in a different location, sometimes that company will come after him for the patent.
Yes. Yeah. There is a lot of discussion about patents, I will say. Not a lot of lawsuits.
A lot of patent talk and Riri's backstory.
A lot of patent talk in Invincible Iron Man. If you are unfamiliar with the events of Civil War II, Iron Man fights Captain Marvel and winds up in a coma during the events of Civil War II.
Yeah, it's about an Inhuman who can predict the future. And Carol wants to arrest everybody that the Inhuman says is going to commit a crime in the future. It's Minority Report superheroes.
Yes, exactly.
Is what it is, yeah.
But all you really need to know, Tony's in a coma, which means he can't Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
So Riri decides that she should continue Tony's legacy as a hero, as a child and as a hero. So she works on improving her armor. She creates an AI for the suit.
Mm-hmm.
And she uses Stark technology as a basis for everything she does. And she names herself Ironheart. She names herself Ironheart because she doesn't want to call herself Iron Man.
Okay.
She doesn't want to call herself Iron Woman. She doesn't want to call herself Iron Girl.
Okay.
And her stepdad and her best friend both died being shot in the heart. So she calls herself Ironheart.
That's the origin of the name?
Yeah, I actually don't think Ironheart is a horrible name.
I don't either.
I think the ethos for the heavy-handed way in which we explain the choice of the word heart, like you could literally just say Ironheart, I like the sound of that would have worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
But there is this kind of heavy-handed in continuity explanation of why it happens.
Well, I understand it because, when you say iron-hearted, that actually means cruel.
Mm-hmm.
So you're taking this word and you're sort of trying to make it a little bit better.
Evocative, yeah.
I don't think Ironheart is a bad name.
I'm glad it's not Iron Girl or Iron Maiden or Iron Woman.
Ooh, Iron Maiden's a good, but not for Iron Maiden's a good.
Also not for the implication of like maiden and virginity and
that's fair.
Things like that, Also like maiden damsel in distress.
I just always think about that band.
Is that a plus?
It should be.
Also, as part of her creation process and using the Stark tech, she gets a Tony Stark AI who kind of serves as a pseudo mentor because the real Tony is in a coma. She needs someone to talk to. And he brings up this interesting discussion about the word female. Do you know what the table of elements abbreviation for iron is?
Isn't it FE?
It's FE. So female is literally like Iron Man.
Oh, but based on that logic, wouldn't she say Iron Male?
But so she doesn't like that, but he keeps trying to be like, be Iron Girl. And she's like, no, thank you. So she names herself Ironheart. After she names herself Ironheart and decides to be a superhero, in her first outing, she accidentally teams up with Pepper Potts, which she's really, really excited about, who is Rescue at the time.
Also in a suit of armor, a very bluish, and and it's reddish in the comic books. But
yes, it is. I actually think the red armor's cooler. They meet and they are ambushed by a techno-based Japanese crime cartel, and their leader is called the Techno Golem. She is an inhuman who has technopathy, basically, for all intents and purposes. Riri escapes with Pepper as Pepper fights them off. She is able to use the Tony AI and a cheap laptop to hack into the Techno Golem and take them all down. So she basically proves to the world in this very public display and to everybody who works inside of Stark Industries how capable she is with no real tech and no real money at her backing. This action also catches the attention of S.H.I.E.L.D. It might shock you to learn. S.H.I.E.L.D. always kind of hanging around, led by Sharon Carter at the time. Diego here uses the word offer her. I'm going to say they threaten her with the opportunity to become a S.H.I.E.L.D. trainee. And Riri's not really having it. She doesn't like traditional power structures and authority, and presents it in a way that I think is really well reasoned. Like, she's like, I don't think you're bad, but I don't like your methods. So why would I work with you? Just because you worked with Tony Stark, just because you work with a lot of Avengers doesn't mean that I have to team up with you. And they give Sharon Carter a line where she's like, I hate it when smart people hate us. And I thought that was really funny. I'd actually love to see that line lifted right in the MCU. So she gets this opportunity from S.H.I.E.L.D. Come join us. Come be a baby S.H.I.E.L.D. agent trainee. Come be a bona fide S.H.I.E.L.D. approved superhero. Amanda.
That was quick.
Yeah. It's like...
She's still a teenager. 4
issues into... when she takes over the Invincible Iron Man story. Okay. It's in the first volume.
You're an unproven teenage superhero. Here's a badge.
I mean, in all fairness, you and I love the Robins, which is not all that much different than this type of ascent into status within the Marvel Comics universe.
I guess the difference to me is that the Robins are unlicensed vigilantes, whereas this scene...
S.H.I.E.L.D. is a government agency.
Is S.H.I.E.L.D. literally giving her a license?
Yeah, S.H.I.E.L.D. at this time...
Even though she's still a minor.
It is specifically stated is like tied into the UN.
Sure.
So they're kind of like a global police force.
They're sometimes tied into the UN, sometimes not. Sometimes are, sometimes not.
So she gets this dope offer from S.H.I.E.L.D. And then Pepper Potts comes back around with Amanda Armstrong. Asterisk, if you're not familiar with Amanda Armstrong.
I'm not.
They decided in 2016 that Tony Stark's parents weren't actually Tony Stark's parents.
Oh, yes.
He was adopted. So Amanda Armstrong is Tony Stark's biological mother, who's like a Melissa Etheridge-style country singer who, after Tony dies, takes over his company. So Pepper and Tony's mom, Amanda, then come with another offer for Riri, and they say, hey, why don't you come work in Stark's old lab as a base, and you can use this cool room that has all the Iron Man suits in it, kind of like the Batcave. So she's got 2 offers right now, S.H.I.E.L.D. and Stark Tech.
Okay.
Then MIT comes back because following... some of these deaths in her life.
Professor Will Hunting?
I still don't know who that is.
Matt Damon!
I've never seen that movie.
Everyone should go see that movie. I'm just saying, I'm throwing it out there. We're going to have a little sidebar here for Good Willie Hunting Corner. Go see that film.
Riri took a leave of absence from her studies at MIT.
Okay.
So then MIT comes back around and they're like, hey, remember you built Ironheart using, or the original Ironheart on our campus using our stuff? Yeah, we're going to sue you for the patent if you don't come back to school right now and continue your work and publish it under the MIT boundaries or auspices. So she's 3. She's an offer from S.H.I.E.L.D., Stark Industries, and MIT. Then...
oh, boy.
The Champions come around.
What?
Because they see her in Wyoming. fighting taking down a superhero.
Who are the champions?
I'm going to tell you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for asking. The champions are a pretty contemporary group of teenage superheroes consisting at this time of Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, Brawn, Amadeus Cho, who later goes on to be the totally awesome Hulk, Vivian Vision, Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Nova, Sam Alexander, and Wasp, Nadia Van Dyne. And then also Snowguard, Amka Aliak, and the time-displaced Cyclops, so the young Cyclops
Yep,
who they brought
the 1960s
forward,
Cyclops.
the one that
Yep.
Brian Michael Bendis brought to the contemporary timeline. So, in total, she's been Ironheart for like a month and gets the offer to join S.H.I.E.L.D., join Stark Tech, return to MIT, or join the Champions. This is a lot of choices for a teenager, even a super genius teenager, to make. I'm going to tell you who she chooses right after this. So, Jason, who would you choose if you were Riri Williams?
I would choose to go to Disneyland.
Not even Disney World, Disneyland.
Well, it's too big. It's so much size.
Yeah.
I want, I just want 2 parks. I don't want 5 or 6, 7, 8. I don't know how many parks are in there.
I don't know which one's
I've never
closer
been
to
to Disney World.
Chicago either.
So if anybody out in the podcast land would like to, fly me to Disney World, hey, there you go. It may happen. I think she's going to choose the champions because she's young and cantankerous and a kid.
Yeah, you probably also think she joins the Champions because you've seen some of the covers that have come out since 2016.
I've read some of that book.
She does join the Champions. She also takes up with Stark Industries and does use a lot of what Stark Tech can make available to her.
Mm-hmm.
She does work with S.H.I.E.L.D. on occasion. And she does return to MIT. So ultimately, she accepts all of the offers laid out before her.
It's too many things, Riri. There's only so many hours in the day.
Because why not? Yeah, but Jason, she's a super genius.
Oh, that's fair.
She can do everything all at once, everything everywhere all at once. Then there's an attack on the Smithsonian. Why is there an attack on the Smithsonian?
Because it's an awesome place.
I'm so glad you asked.
Oh, hey, why was there an attack on the Smithsonian?
There's actually an attack on the Smithsonian because Commander Sharon Carter of S.H.I.E.L.D. is in there and they try to blow her up.
Okay.
And so Ironheart comes and she's like, hey, can I help? And they're like, no, who are you? I'm Nick Fury. I haven't spoken to you yet.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
So wait, Nick Fury was attacking Sharon Carter?
No. So Sharon Carter gets supposedly blown up at this gala at the Smithsonian.
Okay.
So Ironheart rushes over there because she knows who Sharon Carter is to try and help her. Nick Fury's like, who are you? We haven't met. And then Lady Octopus shows up, who actually is a Spider-Man villain. She was the second Dr. Octopus.
Yeah,
she's literally
cool.
called Lady Octopus.
Mm-hmm. Not in my book. In my book, she's called Dr. Octopus.
She's called Lady Octopus. She says so multiple times.
No.
Riri takes her down, which of course, as a display in front of Nick Fury and the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, they're like, oh yeah, we're trying to recruit you. I remember that. Yeah, you're cool. You're cool. Hey, what if you went to Latveria and overthrew it for us?
Sounds like a Nick Fury thing to do.
And because Doom wasn't there at the time, a female character named Lucia von Bardus had taken over and declared herself Queen of Latveria. And they were like, well, she's a lady and you're a lady. So what if you fought her? And AI Tony Stark is like, Riri, don't do this. They're going to if you screw up, they're going to use you as a scapegoat and say that you were a child and you're not an authorized S.H.I.E.L.D. agent. And she goes, you know what? I'm 15. I'm going anyway. So she flies to Latveria, fights a bunch of Doom bots, beats back Lucia von Bardus, and declares herself the new Queen of Latveria.
Okay.
Jason, I want to ask,
Uh-huh.
is there any chance of this happening in the MCU?
I don't think so.
I think it would be very, very funny.
I mean, look, I understand the story reasons why this had to happen, but I don't see in any world where Ironheart just flies in and somehow beats Doctor Doom.
It's not Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is dead. She beats a bunch of Doom bots.
Oh, that's right. No, Doctor Doom I think is good at this time.
Yes.
I think he's good at this time.
But anyway, he's not there. And Latveria is like in shambles.
Yeah.
So I say she declares herself Queen of Latveria because there is a scene where she beats back Lucia and she's like, hey, I'm the Queen of Latveria. But she didn't like mean it like that. It's a joke.
Okay.
But of course, everyone takes it very seriously. And it takes S.H.I.E.L.D. a minute to fly across the world because they're not as fast as she is in her Ironheart armor, in their Triskelions and Quinjets and whatever. So she actually takes on the responsibility of leading a country and talks to military leaders and brings in UN aid and establishes the first free elections in Latveria.
Okay.
In the span of, I'm going to say 2 days based on the comic book.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, sure. Sure, this worked.
Which is, I think, supposed to illustrate her kind of big picture thinking. They don't want to work with these military leaders because they think they're terrorists. And Riri's like, well, the whole world abandoned them. They were just trying to do what they need. Like, they use Riri a lot to kind of point out where international diplomacy can fall short during this time. Not long after this, Tony Stark wakes up out of his coma and is like, hey, I'm Iron Man again. And Riri's like, okay, I guess I'll join the Champions.
Wasn't she already part of the Champions?
Well, full time.
Oh, full time. Okay.
So she was kind of involved with the Champions, but because she was the lead of the Invincible Iron Man book, she spent a lot more time doing sort of general Iron Man things, working with Pepper, working with MJ, who was a part of Stark Industries at the time, which really threw me off because I wasn't reading Iron Man.
She was.
And then when Tony's like, JK, Friday woke me up, she kind of becomes a champion in a more full-time capacity. And as often happened during this time, Marvel Comics immediately sent her to space to fight Thanos.
Oh, what?
Yeah. So because Sam the Young Nova was a member of the Champions, they kind of go off to help the Nova Corps.
Okay.
And they accidentally run into Thanos. And because Ironheart had some success kind of charging at villains and beating them with the help of AI, Tony Stark, and her own intelligence, she just charges at Thanos and tries to beat him up.
Is the Tony Stark AI gone now that Tony's alive?
She still has it, but the Tony Stark AI is also like question mark evil. Because they have this whole subplot about like Friday's concerned because it wasn't programmed as an AI. He's a human being with ulterior motives, and she doesn't have ulterior motives because she's just working in service of her programming. So the Tony Stark AI is there, but she's not working with him as much as she was before because she has this whole team of champions now.
Got it.
Thanos promptly disintegrates her armor, and she doesn't have very much to do from that point forward. I think they did this because they wanted to keep Riri around in a book because they were probably already eyeing putting her in the MCU at this time.
Of course.
She's also a great character with a great look, a great young female character. The problem with the Champions is they already have a robotic type character because they have Viv from the Vision family.
The daughter of Vision.
Exactly. Yes. So, and also because Riri had defeated like the Queen of Latveria, like some legitimate, top tier level superheroes because she had to basically be Iron Man for 3 volumes. Compared to some of these other characters, she's very powerful with this armor. So I think the intention was to kind of nerf her and do a more personal storyline to grow her as a person because Viv has almost the same power set. And I think it's kind of a bummer because she doesn't get a ton to do for the rest of their space adventure. Eventually they do come back to Earth because it's comics and you gotta. And so they head to Tanzania in Africa because they're going to do some good work. They're going to install some water filters.
All right, great.
And things like, Champions, I need your help to install these water filters for these nice Tanzanians. And they're like, cool, Man Thing, we're here. And then Nova and Wasp fall through a portal into an alternate reality called Weird World.
I've heard of Weird World before. I'm not familiar with it,
Weird World, which is difficult to say if you are unfamiliar. It's basically like, what if you fell into fantasy Dungeons and Dragons?
Okay.
So they all fall through, they all get new names, and they all get D&D classifications.
Okay.
So Riri falls through and becomes Lady Ironheart, who is a paladin. A paladin is basically as close as you can get to being an engineer in the fantasy world. If you watch Strange New Worlds, Star Trek, you've seen a very similar archetypical story.
Yes, they did an episode very similar to that in season 1.
And everyone on the Champions eventually falls through, and they all immediately forget who they are, and they fall into these roles, and they're like, we've lived in weird world forever. This is where we were born. This is where we will die. Riri is the only one who remembers who they are, where they came from, and that they have to leave. So she is the one, she's the guy in the chair, she's the one on the inside working really hard to try and get everybody else out because she's the only one who knows the truth of it. She fights a big villain called Eshu, E-S-H-U, aka the Master of the World. And I want to say Diego provided this great note because I know he's a big fan of this run because I didn't know who this character was. So I want to read it for you. For a note, I did not know who this character was. In case you don't feel bad. He's basically a 40,000-year-old caveman who was abducted by aliens and mutates into an immortal obsessed with conquering the world.
So Vandal Savage.
He's in charge of Weird World. Yeah, kind of.
Vandal Savage.
But his name is Ishu, I guess.
All right.
So
Gesundheit.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So she discovers that he's the one keeping them captive. He's the one they have to defeat. He's the big boss. So in the final battle, Lady Ironheart is able to explain to Sam, aka the new Nova, what's going on. He is consumed by all of this power granted to him by Eshu because he'd been working for him. Viv, the little vision girl, assimilates herself into Lady Ironheart's armor, and they all work together to explode into a huge display of power and get everybody back to the 616. It's a really complicated story that I think only exists because somebody at the time said, wouldn't it be cool if they went into a D&D world? Like, I don't know, maybe Kieran Gillen was around somewhere. But I think when you take science fiction characters and put them in fantasy worlds, it's really fun. And if you've never seen any of the art from this world, it's definitely worth exploring. The big thing that comes out of this is because Viv and Riri have to work so close with Viv putting her consciousness into the Ironheart armor. Once they get back to the 616, Viv realizes that she has feelings for Riri. She has a crush on her.
Ooh.
And when they were merged, it made Viv realize that she wanted to kiss Riri, so she does just that. They have a smoochy smooch.
I want to kiss Riri, please.
Yep.
Please.
Riri's quite taken aback. She tells Viv...
Well, of course, because Viv is a washing machine. A talking washing machine.
She's a synthezoid. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a talking wash machine. Yeah, exactly.
Is she more or less real than Billy and Tommy? That's an interesting discussion. Riri tells Viv she only wants to be friends. And going forward, this kind of starts to affect Riri's time on the champion. This is super typical, in my opinion, of teenagers, especially teenage girls. I don't think this makes Riri bad in any way, shape, or form, but she's kind of like, I am uncomfortable in this circumstance with this person. And she's upset that she was kissed without warning or consent. She tries to explain this to Viv, but becomes increasingly frustrated when Viv basically doesn't take her seriously, and she keeps accusing her of using, quote, robot logic, end quote. Like, Viv's like, well, I liked you, so I kissed you. And Riri's like, right, but you can't understand why that upset me? And Viv's like, but I liked you, so I kissed you. Like, it's very one-to-one. She has a hard time empathizing in a real ironic move, in my opinion, because way, way, way back in Riri's origin, we were afraid that she was the one who had no empathy. All during this time, it's revealed that the reason that Riri's having an increasingly dramatic reaction to being kissed is because the son of Mephisto, a character named Blackheart, had influence and control over Riri. So he encourages her to confront Viv. They have a big fight, and I mean like an actual superhero level fight. Riri goes to Viv's house and attacks her.
Whoa. Get over your feelings, kids.
Because Blackheart is trying to draw out the rest of the champions so he can take them down and impress his dad, Mephisto. Because even though he's an immortal being, he's basically a teenager to fight this team of teenagers.
Okay, of course.
Viv is able to break Blackheart's hold on Riri by apologizing to her. And she recognizes that she was selfish and impulsive and wrapped up in her own feelings, and she wasn't able to consider Riri's feelings. And this apology gives Riri the agency to break free. I think, again, it's like a lot of things with Riri. I think it's a really heavy-handed metaphor, but I actually think the message around consent and how acting towards someone without consent can affect them, I actually think is really strong here. This is one of my favorite arcs that the champions have, actually, even though it's Riri kind of not being up to her best standards.
Got it.
Afterwards, Riri and Viv discuss their feelings, and Viv says that she wishes to not push Riri away because of her feelings. So they agree that despite the fact that there won't be an ongoing relationship with them, they are going to be friends. So I think it's very mature, and I applaud the storytellers for doing this. Riri goes back to MIT. She sets up a physical shop there. Her shop had been at Stark Industries before this. So she's like, I'm going to move my lab back to MIT and run my own lab with their facilities and their money. So like good for her for taking their money. And through her newfound resources, she works on a new project, developing her own AI for her armor. So she doesn't have to use a version of Tony Stark or no armor or no AI at all.
What's this AI like?
Well, we're going to get there.
Well, I know. That's why I'm asking.
Okay, then hold please while I skip.
Oh, you don't have to skip. I'm saying.
To that, we'll get there. Okay, we're going to get there.
I'm just excited for the Ironheart.
She spends a long time perfecting the AI. There's like a whole plot before the AI gets a name and a personality.
Okay. Yeah, she debates, should it look like Ben Affleck or not? Professor Will Hunting says no.
It should look like Matt Damon.
It's a whole conversation. No, that's what Professor Will Hunting is. He's Matt Damon.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Wait, he's not Robin Williams?
Robin Williams is like a psychologist or therapist in that movie. Don't worry about it. Just move on.
Okay.
Oscar-winning movie, Good Will Hunting.
Okay, so she's at MIT. She's working in her lab. She's trying to make her own AI. She's trying to make her own Her Girl Friday. And who should keep bothering her, Jason? Who should keep coming by her lab to ask her about her wacky inventions? And who should MIT keep trotting through her lab to be like, look at how smart she is. Look at how smart we are. Look at this.
I should tell you, it's obvious this entire podcast. Professor Will Hunting.
But a bunch of world leaders. Bunch of presidents.
Why are world leaders coming to MIT?
Because comics.
Okay.
Because we value intelligence in the Marvel Comics universe.
I don't agree with that, but okay.
They do this basically to illustrate that unlike Tony Stark, who knew how to really court people with a lot of money, he was good at playing the game. She's not interested in that. She basically tells them, leave me alone, and uses her upgraded arm cannons to scare them away.
Either hand me a wrench or get out.
So, Jason, I want to ask you as a writer.
Okay.
I've pointed out over the course of this lesson a couple of different things where the writers behind Riri Williams really go out of their way to make her different from Tony Stark. Do you think, as a writer, this is a smart choice to do?
To make her different from Tony Stark? Of course.
Because the lazy choice is to just make her a character who looks like a young black woman, but is basically Tony Stark. She's not sarcastic like Tony Stark. She's not as charismatic to a group as Tony Stark. She's not as interested in working in the public sector as Tony Stark. She has emotions, unlike Tony Stark. Do you think those are all smart choices for Riri?
I mean, yeah, you have to make a character different from the forebearer that they're based on, or else there's no point to the creation of that character. So yes.
Yay. While she is working at MIT, a villain called Clash shows up. He wants her to join a group of villains called the 10 Rings, which if you're a Marvel Comics reader, you're probably familiar with. During this time, while she's fighting against them, she makes friends with a kid in her neighborhood named Xavier King. I just want to bring him up because he's just a nice nerd that Riri calls on the phone sometimes. And he wears these sunglasses and she's like, oh, they look like Geordie LaForge. And he's like, yeah, they are based on Geordie LaForge. I love Star Trek. And then they talk about how great Deep Space Nine is.
Oh, that's cool.
And I just think that's really cute. And I really liked it. I thought it was really sweet. So I don't really need Xavier King to be like a character who shows up in the movies or anything, but I would really love it if we saw that Riri was like a Star Trek fan. I just wanted to say that. So they spend a bunch of time talking about her AI. Okay. And he helps her kind of solidify the idea of what she wants her AI to be. So because she was used to working with a Tony Stark AI that was based on a human brainwave pattern, she begins developing, scanning, and compositing her own brainwaves and her memories to kind of finish off who this AI is going to be. And it takes the form of an aged up Natalie, who was her best friend who was shot in her origin story. So the AI's name is Natalie. Jason, I want you to put on your writer hat and think about this. What does the Natalie acronym stand for? Because they always stand for something. But I want you to tell me right when we get back. Okay, Jason. Yep. What does Natalie stand for?
Okay, can you spell Natalie for? I'm going to write this down. I'm going to. Okay, spell Natalie for me, please.
N-A-T-A-L-I-E.
This is an acronym.
It's an acronym for an AI.
Oh boy.
Ham-fisted, we don't know her.
Oh, New analytical, tactical, and accessory living intelligent engine?
You got one right.
Okay, which one did I get?
Intelligence.
All right.
Honestly, better than I thought you would have done.
Hey, I'll take it.
It stands for Neuro-Autonomous Technological Assistant and Laboratory Intelligence Entity.
They stuck an and in there. I don't like that.
Well, it's an ampersand, so.
I understand it.
I'm going to say nonsense. Absolute nonsense. So Riri and the Natalie AI. So when I refer to Natalie from now on, it's this AI program.
Got it.
They returned to Chicago after learning about the disappearance of Deja Hamilton, a girl from their neighborhood, their childhood neighborhood. And Riri can hardly find any details. Nobody's really investigating it. So she built a little investigation team with her mom and Xavier, the cute boy who she was talking about Star Trek with, and learns that Deja was interning for a local politician, Thomas Birch, who was actually a pawn used by the 10 Rings. Yes, the same crime syndicate who was trying to recruit Riri earlier in this very storyline. They wind up saving her. It's all okay. Riri takes an opportunity to drop out of MIT and to use her money to purchase a studio in Chicago to establish a new base of operations. So she basically starts Williams Industries, kind of like an answer to Stark Industries. Everything is cool for a while until one day, Chicago becomes overrun by zombies.
That happens a lot.
And Riri learns that they are all coming from the Midway Airport.
The Midway Airport?
And Jason, who do you think might be behind this creation of the zombies?
Mephisto?
It's actually the 10 Rings, the same crime syndicate who's been bugging Riri over and over and over
Seems
and
like
over
it might
and
be,
over.
Seems like it might be Mephisto.
No, we did the Mephisto storyline with the champions.
No, it seems like Mephisto.
Riri is able to reverse the zombie plague. She travels to New York because if you've just experienced zombies and you're in New York, which Marvel superhero do you think we have to go talk to about this?
I'm going to say it's either Blade or it's Doctor Strange.
I think we should maybe call the second option and ask him about this time.
Okay. Okay.
Impromptu interview. You didn't know Doctor Strange was going to be a guest on this episode.
All right, I'm going to put it on here. Here we go.
Mm-hmm. Boy, I hope he picks up. We don't usually call him.
I know he usually calls in.
Yeah.
Why not pick up?
Well, we'll see.
Hello, Ashley. I already knew you were calling. It's because I use the dark magic. Dr. Stephen Strange here. Hello.
Hi.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
It's been a while.
I want to ask you.
That was my version of that song. Do you remember? It's been a while.
I remembered that line.
You don't remember Everlast or whatever it is? It's been a while.
It sure don't.
It's been a while.
In Excess? Who knows?
I don't remember. No, Stained. It's a Stained song.
I fully don't know who they are.
I'm a big Stained fan.
So I want to ask you.
What do you need?
About your time with Riri, because you did a couple really, really important things with her. Sorry.
Are you sure you know what you want to ask?
Got her gender wrong.
Hold on a second. I think you have a mind slug of the Vutka inside your brain.
I probably do.
Oh!
Wait, who are we calling?
My special powers.
You're calling your special powers?
No, my special powers are a little wonky right now because of my adventure with Riri. Hold on a second. There you go. The mind slug is gone.
Thank you. Okay.
Now, what woman are you talking about?
I'm talking about Riri Williams.
Got it.
So you used two really cool tools when you were working with Riri.
Okay.
To help investigate this zombie plague.
Yes, remind me.
Yes, the Eye of Agamotto, of course.
Oh, yes, I love the Eye of Agamotto.
And you also used the Stone of Hala.
Oh, yes, I remember the Stone of Hala.
Yeah, that's an old Halakri.
Halakri. Yes.
Because, as I'm sure you remember, the Stone of Hala was stolen from the Sanctum. It can open a portal of unfathomable power.
Are you doubting my memory here,
No,
Ashley?
I'm just... Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Stephen, if I may.
Only my wife can call me that.
I think she calls you Stevie. You have had so many incredible adventures. I don't want you to forget.
Yes. Too many, some might say.
Exactly. So... You're searching for the stone. You use the Eye of Agamotto and you discover that it was in the Wellspring of Power, which is, of course, located in Wakanda.
Oh, that old place.
Yes.
That old chestnut.
And I think it's so interesting that you are the reason that Riri visits Wakanda for the first time.
Well, you have to. Every young person, I think, should visit Wakanda once or another. Have you been to their bazaar?
I'm going to say yes.
The finest silk in the world is in their bazaar. And they have amazing cloaks. I mean, do not tell the cloak of levitation this, but I got a second cloak there, and it was immaculate. Beautiful. Also, great mozzarella sticks. Kind of weird place to buy mozzarella sticks, but the Bazaar of Wakanda, great mozzarella sticks.
Okay, so I'm going to let you go, but I have to ask just one more question.
No, I'm not leaving now. I'm staying.
Great. Because you are a movie star, after all.
Of course.
Any chance that you're the reason that Riri goes to Wakanda and Wakanda forever?
All I will say is that in the second scene of the click.
Oh.
I
think
we lost the call.
Disconnected.
Hold on a second. I'm checking the caller ID here. It says
Mephisto.
It says Mephisto. Yeah, it says Mephisto. Mephisto hung up the call. I'm sorry, we lost him. We lost Dr. Strange.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, man, he was gonna tell something really cool about Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
He was.
Yeah.
I really just wanted to bring that up because I do think there's a chance we might get a little baby Doctor Strange cameo.
You think?
I would love for that to be the case. I don't think it's the case.
I'm a big fan of Doctor Strange. The more movies you want to put him in there.
So I'm gonna tell you about when Riri went to Wakanda.
Okay.
So she shows up in Wakanda. Doctor Strange sends her there. Tony Stark gets her passport. Who is there to greet her? Shuri. Isn't that nice?
Shuri, the sister of T'Challa.
Yes, the princess of Wakanda, one may even say. But Riri's like, I don't have time for courtesies, princess. I got to get down to business. And Shuri doesn't like that very much, so they do not get along when they first meet.
You mean Riri doesn't like that?
Riri and Shuri don't like each other very much. They are, of course, forced to work together when an invasion of shadow creatures escapes from this wellspring that Doctor Strange sent her to investigate in the first time. And they are attempting to drain the life force from the people of Wakanda. They fight a villainess called Silhouette. And in order to take her down, they recruit Okoye, who you remember. She's a really prominent member of the Dora Milaje. She is played by Dana Guerrero in the movie. I don't know if Silhouette's going to be in Wakanda Forever, but I could definitely see an Okoye, Shuri, Riri team up moment. I like that the three of them get a chance to work together because you have two brains and a brawn. Not that Okoye is not a brilliant strategist, but she's not a genius the same way that Shuri and Riri are. They all are able to shut down the wellspring, but only when they meet the leader of these shadow creatures, and his name is Dune. And he bears a startling resemblance to somebody from Riri's past. Her father! Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so restate that for just to make sure we're all on the same page here real quick.
So Riri, Shuri, and Okoye, they go to the wellspring where Doctor Strange sent them. A bunch of shadow creatures are coming out of it. They fight these shadow creatures. They go back. They're going to close the wellspring. They meet the leader of the shadow creatures, the person who's been keeping this wellspring open, and it's her biological father.
Okay, but
who Riri's never met before.
You don't think this is a shadow creature?
Well, let me tell you.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
Oh, okay.
So Riri never met him.
We're dealing with magic, so I didn't know if it was a trick.
He died before she was born.
Got it.
JK. Here's a retcon.
Oh, no. Really?
He faked his death to join the 10 Rings, this crime organization.
They must have had a hell of a 401k.
So while he was in their ranks, he harnessed the ability to basically become an earthbender. And that's what he uses to open and close the wellspring. They fight. Riri reveals that she's his daughter. He's like, I don't have a daughter. What are you talking about? They are taken down basically by Dune and all of his following. And as Riri's lying there all sad and stuff, Natalie, the AI, reminds Riri like, hey, here's a convenient plot point. You were given Pym particles as a thank you gift by Nadia, the little baby new wasp. So why don't you use that?
Okay.
So she does, and she closes the wellspring.
Hooray!
Yay! The wellspring is also magic. So while Riri is closing it, she sees the truth of what actually happened.
What is the truth?
The truth of what actually happened is before Riri was born, her father was used as a test subject to make money to support his wife and unborn child, Riri.
Mm-hmm.
This is how he basically got these earthbender abilities. And the test subjects of this experiment were kind of proving to not have the ability that the 10 Rings wanted them to have. Her father was going to be killed, but he uses his ability to escape and goes into hiding, and then he becomes a crime lord. She then is able to revisit another memory with her stepfather, Gary the Good, where he's telling her about Harriet Tubman. And she states that Harriet Tubman was never afraid. And he tells her, oh, I bet she was, baby girl. I'm sure she was. So when she comes back through the wellspring she has a newfound power, and it's an ability to anticipate action. So she basically gets Daredevil powers.
Okay.
And she's able to use it to take down Dune, her father, and the 10 Rings, and close the wellspring, and everything's okay, and Wakanda is saved. So now she has an actual superpower. She's not just an Iron Man analog, which I appreciate the choice to give her a different power. It feels a little late in the day to have this happen. Her heroics in closing the wellspring and saving the Wakandans from these shadow people are celebrated, and she is given the Circlet of Bastet. It's basically a little crown. It is apparently the highest honor of Wakanda, and Shuri asserts that there is always a place for Riri in Wakanda if she wants it. So that's a great open door, especially if you're creating this, you probably know that, again, the movie's coming.
Oh, actually, we have a phone call coming.
Okay, I'm going to pick it up after the next ring. Hello?
Hello, Ashley.
Hi, Dr. Strange.
Yeah, we got disconnected somehow. I don't know. Somebody named Kevin came in there or something.
It's okay.
Or Mephisto or something. I just realized I never told Shuri that her dad was still alive.
Shuri or Riri?
Oh, excuse me, Riri. Getting them too confused here.
They both have dead dads. It's okay.
They both have. I mean, Shuri can talk to her dead dad in the Panther dimension anytime. She's fine.
That's true, actually.
Riri, her dad is actually out and about and a crime lord. And I did not tell her. I knew this. What do you think would be a good gift for a young woman of her ilk?
To say, sorry, I didn't tell you your dead dad was alive?
Yeah, what's the appropriate gift? I was thinking a gift card to Arby's.
Oh, I mean, an edible arrangement, probably.
Oh, you think like an edible rose with like a little orange thing, a little yellow thing over here?
Exactly, yeah. But make sure you get one of the more expensive. Like, spend at least $100 on it.
I was thinking more like 20.
I don't even think you can get an edible arrangement for $20.
Well, I mean, Clea keeps me on a tight purse and a budget now that we're saving for possible children. Spoilers. So I just want to say that, I can't afford that. You sure a gift card to Arby's won't work?
I mean, it's probably fine.
Okay, that's right. If it goes bad, I will tell her that this was your idea.
She's 15. She's probably hungry.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Click.
So.
By the way, I just want to say to the listeners, we need a click sound effect.
Click.
We really do.
Send us you saying click.
No, don't do that. I don't want to go through those emails. Okay. All right. What happened to Riri next?
Next, a high school.
Oh, boy.
Near where she lived in Chicago. Cole's Academic High School.
Riri's gotten up to a lot of stuff in this 6 years of existence.
Yeah. Is attacked by a dragon.
Oh, of course that happens.
Bad things happen. People die. The government of these United States enact the Underage Superhero Welfare Act, also known as the Kamala Law because of Kamala Khan, which basically outlaws teenage vigilantism. Riri is initially going to continue being a superhero. A lot of the teen superheroes do, but she's worried that her mother will be held accountable, so she forces herself into retirement as Ironheart. End of lesson.
Great job.
Just kidding. Some AIs and smart cars start to go haywire. Natalie yells at Riri until she puts the suit back on. She eventually helps. She vows this is the last time she'll be Ironheart. She is able to provide security through the champions by adding the Natalie AI to all of their tech, exactly kind of like the Jarvis AI does for the Avengers. They eventually all do work together They collab with the X-Men. They reveal an evil AI called Cradle. Kamala's Law is no longer enforced because the teenage superheroes saved the day. And Riri and the Champions are once again free to carry on with their superheroics. This is actually a storyline I could see some version of coming across the MCU once we establish either the Young Avengers, the New Avengers, whatever this young new team is going to be, which is the only reason why I bring it up. It's one of the more recent Champions stories. Even though Riri is not super active, I am not since Spider-Man No More put to bed the idea that we're going to pretend fake that a superhero quits being a superhero, because in the world of Marvel, why would you fake being a superhero? It's like the coolest thing you can do, and you're basically unkillable. So that is the end of your lesson on Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. So we're not going to go into anything that's currently being published.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen the movie.
Great.
Now it's time to move into the recommended reading, where if you go over to geekhistorylesson.com/recommended reading, you can find a full list of every single Geek History lesson we've ever done. And you can find perfect suggestions here suggested by Professor Ashley about what you should read if you want to catch up on Riri Williams. So Ashley, what should they read?
The first thing I'm going to recommend is Invincible Iron Man Volume 2, Ironheart. This is her first standalone series where she is more than just 2 pages an issue as a backup to a Tony Stark story. This is Brian Michael Bendis, his initial story bringing her out in the world. This is when she declares herself Queen of Latveria. This is her building the Natalie AI as well. I am also going to recommend Infamous Iron Man Volume 1. This is where Dr. Doom is in the Iron Man armor and Riri stands against him. This is where she also begins dipping her toe in what it means to play on an international scale in terms of diplomatics and whether or not...
Infamous Iron Man's really good.
Whether or not villains are really villains. This is a pretty Ben Grimm heavy volume, I will say. So if you are a Fantastic Four fan, this is a great volume if that is a good intro for you. And then I am also going to lastly recommend Ironheart Volume 1. This is the Eve Ewing series. This is my favorite version of Riri Williams. I think she really comes in her own and develops her own voice. I think they may take plot from some of the other stories and some of the Champion stuff, but I think this is where the character we are going to see on the screen comes from. And then I'll probably throw Champions Volume 1 in there as well, because folks love them Champions.
Sure, why not?
So that's your recommended reading.
Cool. Now it's time to move into the honor roll, everybody. If you lovely go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review, we'll read whatever you write live on the air. Ashley, who is joining the honor roll this week?
That's a great question. So we have 2 people joining today. The first is Whonuts20.
Whonuts!
Who says, class is in session. What a great concept and execution. Just recently found this podcast and I've already listened to so many episodes. Only one problem. Where is my Roger Moore Bond episode? He's my favorite. Jason, where's the Roger Moore Bond episode?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Who's nuts?
Whonuts20.
Whonuts!
It could be Hunnits, I don't know, but Who Nuts is funnier.
I'm not a huge fan of that era, and we didn't know if we were going to have enough time to do it or not. Then they announced the movie. We didn't have enough time to do it, so maybe when the next one comes out.
Yeah, I do know who we would invite as a guest, though. I will say that.
Okay, all right. But thank you for that 5-star review.
And Who Nuts is also joined by Jay Rivera, who says this in all caps, so I'm going to lean back and yell it. My favorite podcast!
Thank you.
So much information in such a short time, but if you listen well, you will gain so much knowledge about a character you just heard about in the episode. LOL. The Doctor Strange impression, 2 crying emoji faces.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So Jay Rivera and Whonuts20, thank you so much for your 5-star reviews. Welcome into the Teacher's Lounge. Jason, what's going on in there today?
Well, luckily, we are joined by the amazing Professor Will Hunting, straight from MIT, and he is going to teach us how to grow apples.
Not poetry?
What does poetry have to do with it?
I don't know. That's Dead Poet Society, isn't it? I don't know. I haven't seen that either.
Apples.
Does he grow apples? Is that a thing?
No, but there's a whole scene in that movie about apples.
I've never seen it.
Applesauce, bitch. Like, that's where the joke from Jay and Silent Bob, Strike Back. That was a line I was saying. I was not saying that.
Never seen it.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Thank you so much for subscribing and downloading this podcast. You know, if you liked this episode, please suggest it to your friends. It's the easiest way for our podcast to grow. Ashley, where can they suggest future lessons on our social media?
You can do that at geekhistorylesson.com, facebook.com/geekhistorylesson, on Twitter at GHL Podcast. That's actually the best place. Or on Instagram at Geek History Lesson.
You can follow Ashley on Instagram and Twitter at Ashley V. Robinson. And is that also your TikTok?
Yes.
Yeah, also on TikTok.
Also on TikTok.
You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jawiin, Jawiin. And I'm also squatting on TikTok at Geek History Lesson, if you're curious. So Jawiin wasn't available. Somebody took it. I'm so mad about that.
Rude.
And come on over to patreon.com/Jawiin for some more podcasts. Now, where to?
Stick around.
Hashtag stick around, baby. What are we talking about, Ashley?
So I want to ask you, what would you like to see Riri Williams do post Wakanda Forever? Because Reacher's assistant Diego pointed this out. Since the MCU already did the dynamic team up of Tony Stark and Spider-Man, who do you think they're going to team Riri with as a character?
Oh, interesting.
I thought that was a really interesting question.
Interesting. And, you know, my gut would have said Doctor Strange, but he's already got America Chavez.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You know, I never noticed it until our research assistant Diego brought this up, that there is sort of a young mentor. We have the two Hawkeyes going on in the MCU.
Yeah.
Man, that's a good question. Who is she going to team up with?
I mean, the lazy answer is going to be Shuri.
Yeah, that is the lazy answer. You know, I mean, War Machine seems like a pretty obvious choice.
Because Dominique Thorne, who is playing her, is quite a bit younger.
Another interesting choice would be that maybe Riri is an excellent stand-in for Mary Jane, and she teams up with Spider-Man.
Ooh, that's interesting, because obviously MJ doesn't seem like she's going to be much in the picture.
Or they'll find a way to bring her back. Mephisto, probably.
Yeah, Mephisto.
Mephisto, everything. So,
One more day.
Who do you think? Where do you think they're going to drop her? I mean, they're obviously going to drop her in Young Avengers.
Yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. I would like to see her mentored by, I would say Sam or Bucky, because we're used to the Captain America Iron Man kind of rivalry.
Sam would be a good choice.
I think Sam is more that character, but I don't know if Marvel is going to think, oh, having a black man mentor a young black woman is too on the nose. So maybe they would give it to, and maybe they'll have Sam mentor Yelena or something like that. I don't know. But because Yelena and Bucky are on the Thunderbolts together, I could see Riri and Sam kind of coming together in a mentor-mentee relationship. And I would really like to see that because it would be pretty obvious for it to be Rhodey. And I'm just not sure what I think they're doing with Armor Wars anymore.
I don't think they know what they're doing with Armor Wars. This episode's going to age very well.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Awesome. Great. Well, everybody out there, thank you so much for listening. This has been a great Geek History lesson. Professor Ashley did an excellent job. Thank you so much for listening. I am Jason, does not teach at MIT, Inman.
I am Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And Professor Ashley, will you please close out this podcast?
Class is now dismissed.